I'm Mark Golub, and in the news, more and more discussion and concern with the way in which the major social media organizations are making decisions about what information Americans have the right to hear and have access to. Social media giants like Google and YouTube and Facebook and Twitter all have come under criticism for censoring what they will permit their users to say and read. And in America today, it is frightening to see the number of people who now believe the First Amendment, the bedrock of American democracy, guaranteeing freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of assembly, protecting Americans from the establishment of a state religion. There is a frightening number of people who now believe the First Amendment should be modified, especially when it comes to the principle of free speech. One example that illustrates the extent to which this assault on the First Amendment is gaining credibility is a senator hoping to become president of the United States in a publicly televised debate arguing that Twitter should shut down the account of the President of the United States. It should be noted no one else seemed to agree with him. But imagining an America where politicians would censor what other politicians could say on social media. And many of you may remember that very recently, JBS was a victim of censorship. We posted an address I recently gave in which I offered my concept of what it means to be an American Zionist today. And YouTube took that address down. Presumably, and I want to be fair, we do not know the exact reason for YouTube's removing my address, because you can't reach anyone at YouTube to learn the reason behind their censorship. So we can't be sure why YouTube took down my address. But the presumption is that the address was taken down because it used the word Zionism, which anti-Israel groups argue is a form of racism and is therefore associated with hate speech. And that's the crux of the argument people use to censor people on social media. Somehow the meaning of hate speech has been so expanded that it has become politically correct to outlaw something others find as hateful, like Zionism. Now, we protested to YouTube, and I was very moved by how many of you, our viewers, protested YouTube. And YouTube restored my address on what it means to be an American Zionist today. And you can find it on YouTube or on the JBS website. But JBS only experienced the tip of the censorship sword. Many, many other Americans have experienced far worse. And one of those who's been a target of social media censorship is a man who's been both a passionate Jew, who was one of the early activists working to free Soviet Jewry, one who was profoundly committed to Judaism and to the State of Israel, and who also is a passionate American and one of the most thoughtful and articulate conservative voices on the American scene today. His name is Dennis Prager. Now, I know we have a large audience in LA that watches JBS, but many of you in other parts of the country may know less about him. So I want to give you a sense of Dennis's many accomplishments. Dennis Prager is the host of his own nationally syndicated talk show on the Christian radio station KRLA in Los Angeles. He's also the co-author of two marvelous Jewish books written with Rabbi Joseph Telushkin, whom you may have seen with me on a recent edition of L'Chaim. The books are entitled The 9 Questions People Ask About Judaism and Why the Jews? The Reason for Anti-Semitism. He's also authored commentaries, marvelous commentaries, to both Genesis and Exodus. And Dennis Prager is the founder of PragerU, a website that creates 5-minute videos on a host of contemporary topics. And Dennis Prager's videos have been routinely taken down by YouTube, including a video of Alan Dershowitz making the case for Israel. And so Dennis Prager has now teamed with comedian Adam Carolla, who has a popular podcast of his own, to fight back in defense of free speech by creating a feature film now in theaters entitled No Safe Spaces. And Dennis Prager joins us now from Los Angeles to talk about social media censorship and about his film. Dennis, thank you so much for being with us on JBS.
It's an honor to be with you. I just want to make one little correction.
Please do.
My home station, KRLA in LA, as you noted, the show is on nationally on hundreds of stations around the country. It's not a Christian station. It's a regular talk station. It's owned by Christians, which is not the same thing, obviously.
Very good. Okay, Dennis, before I ask you about your personal fights with YouTube and how you came to produce No Safe Spaces, if anyone in our audience is meeting you for the first time, take just a few moments, please. Describe your own Jewish background.
I was raised in an Orthodox home in Brooklyn, New York. I went to yeshiva until I was 18, both black hat yeshivas and modern yeshivas. I graduated Yeshiva Flatbush High School. I continued at the Masiftet Yeshiva Flatbush. I taught Jewish history and religion at Brooklyn College. Wrote 2 books on Judaism and two Torah commentaries. I'm writing 5 in total. The first 2 were Genesis and Exodus. I'm happy to tell you they're the best-selling Bible commentary in America for the last 2 years, and it's my way of bringing the Torah to the world. I believe the Torah has something to say to everyone, or it has nothing to say to Jews. As I often put it, the idea that the Torah only talks to Jews is like saying Beethoven only talks to Germans.
Good for you.
Or Shakespeare only talks to English.
Good for you.
Yeah. So that's my Jewish background.
By the way, how do you now self-identify Jewishly? Are you Orthodox today?
I call myself a religious non-Orthodox Jew. I'm Orthodox, small o, but not capital O.
Okay.
In other words, I believe the Torah is from God, but I believe rabbinic law has to change.
Beautiful. How did you come to be involved in the Soviet Jewry movement?
When I was 21 years of age, friends of mine on an Israeli kibbutz knew people in the Israeli government in charge of sending young Jews into the Soviet Union to smuggle in Jewish items and to smuggle out Jewish names. They brought my name to them because I knew Judaism and I also spoke Hebrew and Russian. I spoke Hebrew because of my Jewish background in yeshiva and Hebrew-speaking camps, and I knew Russian because I studied Russian in college. So I was like their perfect choice.
Yes.
They sent me for 4 weeks into the Soviet Union at the age of 21. I came back to the United States, and I became the national spokesman for the most active group for Soviet Jewry, the Student Struggle for Soviet Jewry. And I went all over the U.S. speaking on behalf of Soviet Jews. That's how I began my public life. So I've had a public life since the age of 21.
That is amazing. Look, Joe Telushkin was recently on L'Chaim. We talked about you, how dear your friendship is and how old your friendship is. But I never asked him, how did you come to ask him to write what have really become 2 best-selling Jewish books?
We were 25 years of age, and I was doing a lot of lecturing. At that time, my whole life was in Jewish life, and with the Jewish books and Jewish lectures. So I said to him, I'll never forget this. I said, you know, I get so many of the same questions at every Jewish place that I speak. Why don't we write a pamphlet answering the most common questions Jews ask? Let's do it over a weekend. So if I'm not mistaken, Joseph was a bit skeptical that we could get it done in a weekend. And he was right. I think it took 2 years. And it was not a pamphlet. It became a book, The Nine
Yes.
Questions People Ask About Judaism. And it became the most widely read English introduction to Judaism. And it is still in print.
That's right.
And still, it's really amazing. And I'm very gratified. It's a wonderful book. And it's like everything else I do, it's reason based. I never ask people to take anything on faith. I make the case for faith based on reason. I make the case for Judaism based on reason. And the 9 questions are very real. Like, for example, do you have to believe in God to be a good Jew? If Judaism is supposed to make people better, why are there unethical religious Jews? That's one of the 9 questions.
Uh-huh.
I believe in being very real. I confront reality. I've been a talk show host. Of course, that's not specifically Jewish, but I've been a talk show host for 37 years. And, one of the reasons I've been on so long is that I am real and I am rational. And even if people differ with me, you have to have a rational argument against what I said. So it's been a wonderful project.
Well, you have been a major force in Jewish thought on the Jewish scene, and you've been a wonderful voice. And again, I am so glad to have a chance to talk to you. Dennis, moving away from the Jewish background,
Well,
how do
before
you
we do, let me just show, if I may.
Sure.
I'm very self-conscious about promoting anything of mine, but not in the case of my Torah commentary. This is done for purely idealistic reasons. Nobody writes Bible commentaries to get wealthy, but this is life-changing stuff. So here's an example of here's the Genesis, and here's the Exodus, and they're beautifully, gorgeously printed. And I hope people will get it. It's called the Rationale Bible. People should read the reviews on Amazon, and they'll get an idea on how life-changing this stuff is.
Well, anyway, Mazal Tov on both those, on everything you've been doing. Dennis, how do you self-define yourself, both in terms of politics and social issues? How do you are defined by others all the time, but I wanted to hear from you. How do you politically see yourself?
Well, the irony is I was raised a liberal Democrat.
Yeah.
And I left the Democratic Party the first time when Ronald Reagan ran for president. Ronald Reagan said one sentence, which shows you it doesn't even take 5 minutes to change a mind. You could do it in one sentence. And we change minds in the millions with our 5-minute videos, but that's why I'm making reference to it doesn't even take 5 minutes. When Ronald Reagan said government is not the solution, it's the problem, every light bulb went on in my brain, and I realized every genocide of the 20th century was made possible solely by big government. And what big government is the antithesis of the founder's ideal of limited government. And I have a saying: the bigger the government, the smaller the citizen, which is entirely accurate. We become smaller we individually become smaller as the state gets larger and larger and larger. And so anyway, here's the thing about being a liberal Democrat. With the exception of the size of government, there is not a single liberal value I was raised with that I have jettisoned.
Yes.
I am the same guy, but today a conservative is what a liberal was when I grew up.
I understand.
We are the protectors. Conservatives are the protectors of liberalism.
By the way, it is beautifully said. So, Dennis, how have you been victimized by censorship on social media?
Right. I'm not a big fan of the term. You're entirely accurate, but I don't think there's a minute of my life that I've walked around thinking I'm a victim. I have a whole chapter against thinking you're a victim in my book on happiness.
What word would you rather I use?
No, no, no. I'm saying you're right. I'm just saying how I don't internalize the idea. But you're entirely right. We
Okay,
are victimized.
but now that you say that, I would have rather said to you, why are you a target? You are a target.
Well, no, you could. Well, or how have we been damaged? We've been
Yes,
damaged.
how have
We
you been
have.
damaged?
Yeah. The YouTube is owned by Google, and over 100 of our videos have been placed on the restricted list,
Over a
meaning
hundred.
that,
Over a
oh yeah,
hundred.
almost 200. They're getting worse and worse. They hate us because we brought bad publicity. A big article on Google in the Wall Street Journal. Uh, our videos are so moderate, are so non excitable, non angry. We have three former prime ministers give videos. We have 4 Pulitzer Prize winners. We have presidents from Stanford, Harvard, Yale, Princeton. It's
But those are not the
they're
ones that were taken down, are they?
Oh, sure they are. Oh, absolutely. They don't care who gives them.
What was
For
the reason? What
Prime
was the
Minister
reason?
Stephen Harper defended Israel, and that was put on the list. They hate Israel. They truly they hate America and Israel, but they hate Israel a drop more than America. Half of our videos, and there are about 15. We have 350 videos. 15 are on Israel. Half of them, 7.5. Well, so you can't have 7.5. 7 of the 15 are lumped with pornography and violence. So if you have a filter, you can't see them. Alan Dershowitz, you mentioned it. Alan Dershowitz gave one defending Israel's founding. It's on the restricted list. Is that pornography or violence? When
So,
I testified in the Senate to the subcommittee headed by Senator Cruz of Texas, there was a Google representative there, and they said, and you could see, your listeners, your viewers can watch this. It's on YouTube. And when I testified in the U.S. Senate, so Senator Cruz looks at the man from Google and said, can you please explain to me why you placed Mr. Prager's video on the 10 Commandments on the restricted list? And he said, because it mentions murder.
that's ludicrous. Dennis,
It
that is
is
ludicrous.
ludicrous. It is so ludicrous that I actually said, we're going to, I said this, you people could watch this. I said it to Senator Cruz in committee. Prager University is going to put out a Google-friendly 9 Commandments.
Everybody understands the 6th commandment is thou shalt not murder.
Yes,
By the way,
exactly.
yeah,
I mean, he might as well, why would he put up adultery?
yeah. The argument is always made that what people are trying to do is protect our nation from hate speech. I want to know how you feel. What's your argument about where should the limit of hate speech be?
There are no limit. They're only shouting fire in a crowded theater or advocating violence or teaching people how to make a bomb. Nazis should be free and communists should be free to use the internet.
Mm-hmm.
In the United States of America is known for free speech. You are allowed to say whatever you want. That's the defining difference of America. We're the only country where Holocaust denial, only Western country where if you deny the Holocaust, you're not fined or sent to prison. I hate people who deny the Holocaust. They're the scum of the earth. But they should be, in America, you're allowed to be the scum of the earth. That's freedom.
So, what's your sense of what's driving? You know, many in the Jewish community are being attracted to the notion that we should limit hate speech, and that for them it's not free speech, it's hate speech. And when you say incite to violence, the argument against this is that the boundary of what does incite violence should be seen larger than simply the statement, go hurt somebody or go kill somebody. That if you generate a kind of a mood in the country, you are moving people toward violence. So I'm going to ask you again, how do you deal with those who say to you, yes, 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 we believe in free speech, but Dennis, do you really believe in hate speech that would drive people to want to hurt somebody else?
Okay. This is, you asked me about American Jews who say this. This is a perfect example of one of the saddest developments in American Jewish life. Most American Jews used to be liberal. Now most American Jews are leftist. And I have a whole PragerU video on the difference between left and liberal. I'll give you 2 examples. I give 6 examples in my video. People should watch it. It's only 5 minutes. Liberals believe in racial integration, and leftists believe in racial segregation. Liberals believe that race doesn't matter. Leftists believe race should be honored. There are black dormitories at Harvard. That's a left-wing idea. Liberals find that repulsive. The Ku Klux Klan and the left like black dormitories. The other example is Israel. Liberals were the most pro-Israel group in America. The left has always hated Israel, always. There's no exception. And now Jews are flocking to the left, even despite or because of its hatred for Israel. This notion that I will tell you what you can say because I think you're threatening, this is a left-wing notion, not a liberal notion. The left everywhere on earth, from Lenin until Soros, has believed in suppressing free speech. The left has never, ever, ever, anywhere on earth allowed free speech when it had power. Look at the university. They have power. There's very little free speech. So it is one of the saddest developments in American Jewish life that Jews have replaced liberalism and Judaism with leftism.
Mm-hmm. You know, Dennis, I try to point out that the kind of restriction of speech that is being expressed on college campuses is very often being directed at Jews who want to talk about Israel. And that any Jew who cares about Jewish identity or cares about Israel, the notion that we would not be in favor of free speech for everybody is something that, just as you said, we were brought up with the notion that the Jewish community always does better in a society based on free speech, and that's one of the greatest aspects of American life and why the Jew has flourished here. Your comment.
Yes, it's entirely right. The Jews are doing everything to undermine what we flourished here. They're undermining Christianity. It's the only Judeo-Christian country in the history of the world. Christians who love Judaism, love the Torah, love the Bible. The Jefferson and Franklin wanted the seal of the United States to be the Jews leaving Egypt. The seal of Yale University is Urim v'Tumim, what the high priest wore on his breastplate, and it's in Hebrew. You couldn't graduate Harvard till 1800 if you didn't know Hebrew. This is a Judeo-Christian country, and by the Jews being among the secular radicals getting rid of Christianity, they're actually also going to undermine the special place Jews have had here. The less Christian America is, the less pro-Jewish it will be. That's not an opinion, that's a fact.
Dennis, what are you trying to say or do through your movie, No Safe Spaces?
It's a wake-up call. First of all, it's a terrific movie, not because Adam Carolla and I, quote-unquote, star in it. I just happen to be in a great movie. It's not my doing. It's riveting. It should get an Academy Award. It is that good, in my opinion. It's a wake-up call to America, and it's funny, and it's serious, and it's got liberals, and it's got conservatives about the suppression of free speech in America, specifically universities. People will leave shaken.
Give me
They
one.
should go to forgive me. They should go to nosafespaces.com, nosafespaces.com, find out where it's playing in their area.
Yes, by the way, it is playing right now as you're watching this on JBS. Give me one example of something that really tickles you or you feel is very important that the film tries to depict?
There's a professor who happens to be a Jew, Brett Weinstein, professor of biology, lifelong liberal, professor of biology at Evergreen State College in Washington State. One day they made an announcement that all whites should leave the campus for a day. Guy said, that's ridiculous. I'm not going to leave the campus. He was the only white who refused to leave. Professor of biology, a beloved professor. And we show the hatred that ensued. Students gathered around him, screaming at him and cursing him. And a lifelong liberal called a racist because he wouldn't leave the campus. And it was so dangerous, the police told him, don't come back. We cannot guarantee your safety. And the man, a tenured professor of biology, left the university. We have him and his wife. It's riveting.
Dennis, what's it going to mean to have Michael Bloomberg running in the Democratic primary?
What's it going to mean Jewishly? What's
Yes.
going to be Americanly?
Jewishly.
I'm a deeply committed Jew, and I couldn't care less if there's a Jewish president, Jewish vice president, Jewish beekeeper, or a Jewish sanitation worker. I find that stuff so primitive, it's almost painful to me. I didn't vote for Gore Lieberman. My nearly all of my relatives did. Oh, wow, a Jew is vice president. I didn't care. I either agree with you or I don't agree with you. And I love Joe Lieberman. I'm actually quite friendly with him. But I didn't vote. This doesn't mean a thing to me. And the beauty is America is so accepting, it doesn't mean anything to Americans. Got a Jew by the name of Bloomberg. You can't get a more Jewish name than Bloomberg. And the guy's running, and nobody cares. That's the beauty of America.
Yes.
No one cares. Only the left cares. Are you black? Are you half black? Are you Hispanic? Are you Latino or Latinx? This is the primitivism of the left. It's regressive. It's not progressive. So anyway, it means nothing to me. And I don't know how many Jews. We're so accepted in American life. I don't think most Jews give a hoot. Oh, wow, a Jew was one of the candidates. So what? It's like when I was bar mitzvah, I'll never forget, somebody gave me a book, Great Jews in Sports. And I remember thinking, what do I care? I'm in love with the Torah. I'm in love with Israel. But whether or not, there was a Jewish hockey player, it doesn't mean anything to me.
So, Dennis, what do you now want to do in terms of the larger problem? And by the way, there are going to be people who are saying, why did Mark Golub have Dennis Prager on when he's such a conservative? And, it seems that is the channel going conservative? And my own response would be, first of all, I think you're a very important voice. Whether people agree with you or not, they should hear what you have to say. But my main reason for asking you to come on is, you and I have a shared experience. Your PragerU is censored all the time. We were censored. When it happened to us, it was very painful to me, Dennis. And there's nothing I could do about it. But Dennis, I'm not Dennis Prager, and I'm not PragerU. And you're in a position where you have the opportunity to do something. You made a movie, but it's not just about making a movie. You make noise in a way that hopefully is going to change things. So as we wrap this up, what do you hope to, in general, do and achieve on the reason why you're here on JBS? Namely, we are living at a time when major swaths of our population believe the First Amendment should be amended to restrict freedom of speech, and that it's okay for people to take down videos by PragerU. What's your ultimate message here?
Well, I've really concentrated on that in telling you that is the end of liberty. The first liberty is speech. You can make up all the excuses you want. I feel unsafe. It's hate. It's this. It's that. It doesn't matter. There's either free speech or there isn't free speech. And who the hell are you to be the one who determines who's free speech? I don't like your speech, but I don't want to suppress it. When I grew up, the American motto was, I may not agree with what you say, but I'll fight to the death for your right to say it.
Yes.
That has died. That the left has killed that idea, like it's killed almost every idea. The left is a completely destructive force. Liberals are wonderful. Conservatives are wonderful. The left is an utterly destructive force. The ACLU just sent out a tweet that the men give birth and men menstruate. And I am supposed to believe that. This is how sick the university is, that only the well-educated believe men menstruate. You have no idea. Most of your viewers do not know how bad things are getting. Kids in first grade, 5 years old, are told there's no such thing as male and female. You'll choose, or not even choose, because it's non-binary. It's beyond belief, and only the well-educated believe this stuff. Like only the well-educated believe that Stalin was a good guy. It is one of the great tragedies of life that one of the reasons Jews got so screwed up. It's like is an old joke. When rabbis became doctors, the Jews got sick. It was a brilliant line. It used to be enough to be a rabbi. Now you had to have a PhD. But if you got a PhD, the odds are you got indoctrinated, not educated. And I went to graduate school at Columbia, and I know the whole thing, and I taught at college. It's bad stuff going on. And, you asked, what would somebody say? Why would you have me on? I mean, anybody who asked that is obviously from the left, not a liberal. Would I care if you had a guy on the left on? Would I ever ask you that question? If you had a Jew from the left? Of course not. You should have all voices, all normative voices. I've written the most widely read introduction to Judaism. I've written one of the most widely read explanations of anti-Semitism, the most widely read Torah commentary in the country today. I founded a shul. I have founded a Jewish day school. I fought for Jewry my whole life. I debated for Israel at the Oxford Union. It's not like I'm some peripheral person to Jewish life. This is central to me, and I've been central to Jewish life. But as I said, Jews have forsaken Judaism and liberalism for leftism, and it's coarsened their openness and even their decency. The question is indecent. Why would you have me on? Is an indecent question.
Dennis, you're fabulous. I don't care whether people agree with you or not. You are
I
always,
don't either.
You,
I only care
yes.
that they don't suppress my speech.
Right.
I'd have some shuls invite me. It would be awesome.
You are always thoughtful. You're articulate. You make us think. I have enormous regard for the way you courageously challenge popular convention, whether it's on an American scene or in the Jewish scene. I wish you called Tuva Hatzlacha with no safe spaces with your website. And I'm really sorry you're in LA because I wish you would be on JBS all the time. I hope when you're next in New York, you'll join me live in studio for L'chaim. You're doing wonderful work. Thank you for spending time with us on JBS.
My honor.
Be well. Dennis Prager, host of his nationally syndicated show on KRLA in Los Angeles, founder of PragerU, a website which, if you've never visited, make a point of doing so. And Dennis's film is entitled No Safe Spaces. It's in theaters right now. For information, visit nosafespaces.com. And the way he expresses it is very much the way I feel. And I think very, very often, some of the things that people like Dennis say are really distorted and misunderstood. And I think there is a difference now. A difference that his point, there's a difference between a liberal and a leftist, is a very powerful point. My thanks as always to our director, Sloan Copeland, JBS Associate Director, Dara Golub, Technical Director, Michael Paley, Transmission Manager, John McDevitt, and to the producer of In the News, Carol Lilienthal. Until the next time, I'm Mark Golub. Be well, my friends.